Cliff, since I see your face, hi, do you want to say good morning?
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah. Thank you to MailChimp, Creative Mornings' official global partner for marketing. And have you heard MailChimp recently acquired Courier Media, a bi-monthly magazine that delivers real stories, insights, and more to help you work better, live smarter, and be happier. And MailChimp and Courier have teamed up to offer the Creative Mornings community a gift in honor of presenting this month's theme, Underdog. Courier's made an exclusive digital edition of their annual issue, Business of Design, just for Creative Mornings community, for free. It's full of insights, tips, and case studies of creatives and designers who are building successful businesses. So you can download that using the URL on this screen. We can also send this URL out later if you guys need it. And thank you to WordPress.com, Creative Mornings' official global partner for web publishing. Our beloved Own Your Content series is back for an encore. For season 3, we're revisiting our favorite insights to learn various ways we can honor our work by owning our content, especially in the face of uncertainty. Check out the library of interviews and resources at ownyourcontent.wordpress.com. And thank you to Basecamp, Creative Mornings' official global partner for project management. Hey is their new email service. It's designed around their belief that your inbox can be delightful and is a completely new way of approaching email. You can take it for a spin with a 14 free day trial using that URL, hey.com. Thank you to our lead sponsors, Echo Studio and Cork Color, and to our partners, Spark BusinessWorks, Mighty in the Midwest, Atomic Object, Conduit Studio, Tech Systems, the UICA, and LaFleur Marketing. We appreciate all of our local partners so much. Okay, guys, so I'm about to show you this feature that I accidentally tried to show way too early. I would love someone to read our virtual manifesto this month, since I can unmute and we can all collaborate. But we read the Creative Mornings manifesto during events because it sets the tone and shines a light on our values here at Creative Mornings. So give a thumbs up if you would like to be the person that reads it this month. And the way you can do that is going to the reactions button on the bottom of your screen and you click a thumbs up. And I can only see 6 people at a time, so bear with me if someone is thumbsing up.
Looks like Tori Hayes has a thumbs up.
Thank you. Tori, good morning. I'm unmuting you. Or I guess I'm asking you to unmute, Zoom says. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Thank you so much for volunteering. Take it away.
Okay, I gotta be honest. I moved away from the computer and heard thumbs up and came back. So you might have to help me through.
Can you see the screen right now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so all you have to do is read our creative manifesto.
Oh, I would love to do that.
Yay!
Okay. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections, in learning from others, in jazz hands, virtual claps, and virtual snaps. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
Yes, they are. Thank you, Tori.
You're
You're the best. Snaps for Tori. Claps all around. That's amazing. Thanks, Tori. So our theme this month is Underdog. And an underdog questions and expands what's considered possible. Our Edinburgh chapter chose this month's theme. Astrid Yackel illustrated the theme, and MailChimp is presenting this theme globally for us. And now I am so excited to introduce our speaker today and also let you know that we're switching up our event style this month by having a live interview instead of a presentation. This month, we are honored to have Asia Horne join us. Asia is a true 616 native, a proud product of EKHS and GVSU. Asia has committed to her passions of creativity and community as creative director and DJ. With over 10 years of design experience that has reached an international scale, she is now heavily involved in the newly formed GR-based Artists of Color collective Element 7 as creative project coordinator. She's also the founder of Power to the People 616, a Black woman-led community initiative created to celebrate, educate, and mobilize the Black Grand Rapids community. Rooted in the mantra, do nothing without intention, Asia is a passionate advocate of using your gifts to create change, starting with where you are and where you're from. Help me give Asia a warm welcome with claps, snaps, and cheers in the comments section.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate the introduction. Thank you guys for having me.
I am going to stop sharing so I can spotlight you real quick.
Yes. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Let me scroll through. I'm on my phone today, so I like to see faces too. So, hi, everybody. Good morning.
All right. So, Asia, I feel like I have to ask you, are you a morning person?
I am. I actually am. The daytime is where I feel most productive, especially the morning. By the time the afternoon comes, I'm spent and I'm already ready to do the next thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you prefer coffee or tea?
Tea me always.
Ooh. What has been your favorite quarantine pastime?
Actually, walking outside. I've spent more time in the fresh air than I ever have in the recent months. So I appreciate the force and encouragement to spend more time outside.
I love that. Are there any people or current projects that you're following that inspire you with awe right now?
Honestly, what's going on in the world, to be quite honest, it's a very inspiring, revolutionary time. So everything that everybody is doing to make a change, I'm in awe of it.
Okay. Where did you go to school and what did you study?
Well, I went to, and I always have to mention this because, hey, I graduated from East Kentwood High School, so I'm definitely a KPS Kentwood kid. And after high school, I went to Grand Valley State, where I majored in advertising and public relations with an emphasis in PR.
Awesome. What inspired you to get into graphic design originally?
It started when I was a kid. I had to be about 11 or 12, and just being on, social media, the chat rooms, all that stuff. It was relatively new, and I spent a lot of time on the computer already. And I was in like a message room, a message board, if you guys remember those. And people had designed like signatures, like at the bottom of their messages. And I was like, I want one, of course, just trying to have what everybody else did. But I realized that I actually enjoyed the process of creating something from my mind in that way. And it just continued from there. So yeah, I'm actually a self-taught designer, and I've been designing since 11 or 12.
Wow, that's like, you just hit double digits.
Yeah.
Loved it. So how do you think that graphic design eventually connected with becoming a creative director later?
Yeah, I honestly think, and this is just from what I know now, because like I said, being self-taught opposed to being a more, I guess, trained designer or somebody who has, that more technical experience in the field, you don't necessarily know the next steps unless you find out that for yourself or unless you naturally, bump into it. And that's what I did. Just from designing from 10 plus years, I'm like, well, what's after this? Like what can you do after you just simply design? And that is direction, to where you provide other designers in more of a collaborative, space, and you build up your experience there from being a designer to being a director to somebody who can carry out bigger, projects if you do so choose, if that's your prerogative. And I just found out that way that my skills had just transitioned into more of a creative direction aspect. But honestly, creative direction is what I've been doing my whole entire life in terms of just design, visuals, creative elements, whether they're events or, digital campaigns or anything like that. Like I've always had a multi-dimensional approach on the things I did related to design. So when I found out what creative direction was, I was like, oh, I've been doing that, but just knowing that and knowing what it takes, it definitely gave me more clarity. But I believe that any designer, if they're really passionate about just being in the craft, they would ultimately move to a director position, whether it's art director, creative director, or some type of leadership role.
That's awesome. So you have done international creative direction. Can you tell us where being a creative director has taken you?
Yeah. My experience and journey as a designer has definitely been one rooted in community and, nepotism for sure. Like I have a lot of great friends connected to a lot of great things, but it just tied into what I was already doing. Before I moved into, the creative direction space, I was just designing, as I've been doing for years. And I found myself in the space of designing for multicultural hair and beauty specifically. So designing for brands like Design Essentials, Lotta Body, and different brands like that cater specifically to, hair, beauty, but with our different textures and curls and things like that. So once I just started to take projects in that space, one of my best friends, she was sought out to be the brand manager for a brand called Aunt Jackie's Curls and Coils. They're actually based out of Atlanta, and they started in 2012, but they're pretty legit. Like I found out after I joined the team, because I was relatively aware of the brand, but what their reach was, what retailers they were sold in, they're sold in major retailers like Target, Walmart, CVS, and these were graphics and visuals, and marketing things that I was producing for them, so I knew that we had that reach. But the more that I became involved in the projects that we had, I realized that we had even a bigger international market, and we have a huge base in South Africa. So especially, so with that experience, I've been able to travel to South Africa, I think about 3 times already. And I've been with the company for 2 years. I actually put in my resignation. My last day is September 1st. So, so yeah, breaking news. But other than that, it's just been amazing to design for spaces outside of the U.S. to actually see, how people engage with, all of the visuals there, because essentially the creative direction I do now is rooted in marketing and e-commerce and retail. So we always have to keep that in mind with the design that we create, is that it's to sell, something, and to encourage and promote and generate sales. And that has a different intention, in that space, opposed to if you were working with a nonprofit or just in anybody like that who have different intentions. So just keeping that in mind, being able to actually see and research, like, okay, this works great here, this works great there, and just be able to, you know, refine strategies and ways to do things better. But it's been amazing to even have that opportunity to design, you know, something that's going to be somewhere else in the world, but to actually go and see people engage with it. And even in terms of the projects that I do, it ranges from the trade show, you know, activation visuals, you know, that you would see at like a conference or things like that. I design, you know, the booth artwork. I design all our print materials. I've designed our website. I've designed the packaging for some of our new collections. So I actually get to see people feel and hold, you know, the things that I design, and it to be in stores, you know, like that's incredible. It's something that I didn't even imagine for myself, you know, until I had the opportunity. So yeah, I'm really just encouraged by the opportunities that I've been presented through the special people in my life that way.
Yeah. So what then eventually brought you back to Grand Rapids from living in Atlanta, traveling to Africa? How did you come back to the Mitten?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting story because anybody who knows Atlanta, specifically, Atlanta is a great place, especially for Black people. It's a, you know, Black thriving city. A whole bunch of us always, you know, imagine about living in Atlanta, and I actually had the opportunity to go and live there. But the crazy thing was I was so unhappy. And it was interesting because everybody was like, well, you're in this big city, you know, you're making more money than ever, you're traveling, like what's wrong? Like why are you unhappy? And that was really because I was at the point of my life as a designer where it's like, what am I doing? What am I doing this for? Like, where's the next step? What's the next chapter? And I was just feeling really unfulfilled because I had no direction, you know, at that time. And I just felt like I was floating. And it was a very, you know, off-putting feeling that I had to figure out, because I was like, what is the problem? Everything is going great, you know? So I started to ask myself those questions and just ask myself, well, what's important to me? What do I want my legacy to be? What involves anything that's important to me that I want to incorporate in that? And two of the main things that I found always represented in my life is creativity and community through all the things that I do. And when I started to think about that, I'm like, okay, that sounds good. Creativity, community, okay, art, okay, art. So as I started to just explore that in my mind, I was reminded that Grand Rapids is such an art inclined city. And that's something that I've always, you know, recognized just through the institutions that we have here, you know, like Art Prize, like UICA, like Graham, like Kindle, you know, and just being a graphic designer, these are things that I just was made of aware of just myself. But I recognize like, oh, it's a lot here in Grand Rapids opposed to, you know, the different cities, and just the, you know, potential that we have here, especially with Art Prize. When I started to take a step back, I was like, wow, it's a lot of stuff going on in Grand Rapids, you know, that I could be involved in a different scale. And I felt even more motivated because it's like, well, I'm from Grand Rapids, you know, I'm from there. Why wouldn't I want to be involved directly in somewhere where I'm from? So as I started to ask myself those questions, I was like, okay, Grand Rapids makes sense. But it was still a hard choice to make because I had just left. After college, I lived in Chicago for about 2 years, came back home for a little bit, then moved right back to Atlanta because I was just so dead set on leaving Grand Rapids. You know, especially if you're from a city, you're just like, I've spent my whole life here, I'm ready to go, you know, and it was always that for me. But when I left, you know, that last time, it just felt so unnatural to be away. Like I missed my family. I was tired of missing out on special, you know, experiences that I knew I could have. With me being a freelancer, like anybody who's a freelancer understands, like we have a very flexible lifestyle to where we can work essentially anywhere, you know. And when I understood that, I was like, why am I removing myself from the most important things in my life, you know? So it was a no-brainer. But especially coming to Grand Rapids is very special to me, specifically because I have a younger sister. She just turned 5 in January, and she's, you know, yeah, and she's going to be a KPS kid or a GRPS kid, whichever. But knowing that I'm able to do things to make changes that directly impact her. And, you know, the little girls who look like her, the little, you know, Black kids here in Grand Rapids, or just any creative kid, you know, who wants to understand, like, well, what can I do? I understood I've done so much. And if I place myself back in Grand Rapids where people can see, like, oh, she's from where I'm from. Oh, she did that. Like, and just to open up their eyes to different things. One of my favorite mantras is seeing is believing. Like, people actually have to see, you know, you sometimes to understand what is possible and what is capable. So that was one of my biggest things about moving to Grand Rapids at this time too. Is like, I want people to see me and to see what I'm doing and to see, but oh, she's from here. You know, like, she had the same resources, she had the same things. I can do something like that too. So that's something that was really important to me moving back home.
Yeah. And with that community focus, can you tell us a little bit about how, you know, along with creative directing and DJing, you've also built momentum as a catalyst in the local activist space in Grand Rapids. So can you tell us a little bit about the Windows GR project and how Element 7 was created from that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as everybody remembers, at the beginning of June, I believe is where we had the protests that, you know, transitioned into the riots downtown. It was a whole bunch of damage, broken windows, you know, all that stuff that comes with that. And boards were put up to, you know, in place of the windows as they repaired them. So all you saw downtown was a whole bunch of empty wooden boards. So an artist, a graffiti artist, his name is Guillermo, and he's part of Element 7. He was just driving around, and him naturally being a graffiti artist, you see a whole bunch of empty canvases. It's like, well, what can we do with this, you know? And he had reached out to Hannah Berry, Lions and Rabbits, who is a big, you know, community catalyst here in the things that she does through art. So she had the resources and connections to at least try to see if we could do anything, you know, about it, and it actually happened. And she had reached out to Downtown Grand Rapids Inc., DGRI, to get the, you know, ball rolling with that. And initially it was supposed to only be like a weekend project because they were under the understanding that the panels were going to be taken down pretty quickly. So if you guys want to do something, hurry up and come in and do it. You know, so that I was originally what had happened there. So it was a fast moving project to where it happened in a handful of days, you know. So our group was pulled together. I didn't even know half of the people involved in Element 7 now, but now they're some of my like greatest friends that I've met over the summer just through the work that we've been doing. But once we had came together as the artist leads, it's pretty much 6 of us, but 7 of us total in terms of our whole collective and what we did for the project. And when we first went out there that weekend, the intention was honestly to just paint the boards. But I was one of the last artists we brought in. And, you know, I got more information about what the project was. And I was like, hey, sounds good. You know, I want to be part of this. Sounds great. But we had a meeting that morning when the artists, you know, were starting to come in. We had already did a call for people who wanted to participate. People were already on their way. But when I started to listen to, you know, what was going to happen, but I kept in mind what this was in response to. It was in response to the riots. It was in response to what's going on indirectly or directly with this movement that's going on, you know, in our nation right now. So what can we do to drive that intention further opposed to just painting boards like we usually do? Like, how can we really drive this intention home? So we changed our whole, you know, mindset to where it's like we should prioritize Black artists in this moment because we're talking directly to what this cause, you know, came from. Black Lives Matter, what's going on, George Floyd's death, what's going on. Like at this time, especially, I recognize like this is a revolutionary time, whether people understand that or not. Like if you understand history and how revolutions start and how, you know, it does take months into years of protests and just things of making, you know, things move. It's starting again right now. Clearly we're in the middle of a pandemic and we're still out in these streets. Like it's something bigger, you know, right now. So recognizing all that, I was like, we have to change this intention to really start the conversation. Like, we should make this work for us. Like, if this is about calling out the systems in, America, but essentially in Grand Rapids and what we deal with here, let's do that. So it just, changed pace, and we were able to really spotlight a lot of, artists of color here, and show their work. And I'm not sure if you guys spent time downtown, between now and then, but you can really feel a change. Like, you're seeing artwork you haven't seen before from artists you probably never heard of before. But the kicker is they're from here. They're from Grand Rapids. They're local. And that was another big thing for me too. Just being a creative from Grand Rapids myself, and especially being a Black creative, I've always felt like we've been kind of overlooked and neglected in that way, in terms of just Grand Rapids, like I said, being such an art-inclined city. But it's like, okay, where are all the artists? Like, where's the representation? And how are we really amplifying the artists here, opposed to, of course, it's artists everywhere in the world, which we know of and that we're able to, work with and collaborate. But how do we amplify the actual people in our city, like, who have incredible talent? So I even think that Windows GR was a starting point to really shift that and be like, wow, all this art from these artists who we never even knew of until now, and just to kind of pivot that and just start some different things and see some different things and talk about different things. It's all about, changing the narrative right now, but being intentional about it. So Windows GR, I always think of it like a social experiment in a way, even essentially to all the things that we had to encounter. Like, we had artwork being painted over, to where it's like, it's levels to this, in terms of how you can essentially just pull a wooden board down. You chose to paint over it. It's something deeper, that just identified the different systems and allyship that we have here in Grand Rapids. Like, a legit social experiment, because it's like we're putting all these provocative artwork that's talking about Black Lives Matter and just that messaging, and it's like, if you feel a way about it, it's showing us like where you stand on this issue, and it's just bringing everything that's going on in the world, directly pinpointing it here, because it's happening here too, whether people understand it, recognize it or not. So it was like we put a microscope on what's going on right now. And one of our kind of sub mantras of Windows GR is, this is not a beautification project. We're not doing this just to do it. We're not doing it just to have the murals. Like, we always have, like I keep mentioning, Grand Rapids is a very art-inclined city. It's nothing new about having murals and artwork all around the city. Like, we see this all the time. But for this in particular to have such political undertone, to have such a radical undertone, to where we're like, hey, speak your truths. Like, that really was an intention. Like, hey, how do you feel about what do you want to communicate in this time? And you can clearly see what people chose to talk about, and it was a really beautiful experience, because it wasn't something we've experienced in Grand Rapids before. And it's something that will really be something to look back on. And essentially, Element 7 was formed so we can keep that momentum going. We couldn't let go of it, because this was such a, changing project where so many people in the community either wanted to get involved, either wanted to donate, either wanted to paint. Like, it just gave Grand Rapids overall a spirit of community, to where it's like, this is something that we can do right now. We're all in the house, but this is actually something that is starting conversations, that is changing the narrative, and that is bringing us together. Like, art is healing, and that's really an amazing, undertone of the project too. It's like, this is through art still, and whether you label yourself as an artist. I love that manifesto from this morning. Like, everybody is creative, everybody, and being able to express and have that creative outlet, especially in times like this, we recognize that it's so important, and that art and the arts are going to heal us in this time. So yeah, it's amazing to be part of, you know, this mini movement that's moving into a bigger movement, and we're really excited to just keep the work going.
I've got goosebumps at the arts are going to heal us. Like,
That's a fact.
yes,
That's a fact.
yes.
Yeah.
What does being an underdog mean to you?
I mean, what does it mean? Being an underdog is my life, you know, in terms of just, I won't even say feeling counted out, but feeling overlooked just in terms of visibility. I think visibility is a big thing to consider as an underdog, or what that, you know, means or involves. It's just who is being seen, who is being given the microphone, who's been given the platform, and what are they doing with it. And if you're an underdog, you feel slighted because it's like, well, where's my time? You know, where's my time to shine? Where's my time to be recognized? Essentially, you know. So in terms of being an underdog, I can relate to it on a lot of levels, but naturally and ultimately what's going on right now, I feel like what I'm connected to and the things that I'm doing are connected to the underdogs, the marginalized, you know, communities in the city, and just helping us finally get to speak our piece and to have our time. You know, I believe that I'm part of the underdog movement in that way, and just letting those voices who aren't necessarily given the visibility or the platform to speak and finally change the narrative. So I think that's overall underdog life.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any practical advice for anyone starting out in a creative or activism space that may feel similarly to how you just described?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you truly have to root yourself in your intentions. Like whatever you do, you have to know what you're doing it for. You have to know why, because that's going to be your, you know, flame to keep you going on those days where you just don't have it, because you have to keep the momentum no matter what. You know, no matter what you do, you have to be self-motivated, but you have to have something to motivate you. So you really have to be clear on your intentions and what you're doing things for, because if you're not, then yeah, you'll feel like I did in Atlanta, to where you're just floating around. But now, since I took the time to settle, and that's the advice, to take your time, like don't rush into, you know, finding that out. Ask those questions for yourself, be still, like have time with yourself to research and really get clear. Because one thing I've learned too is you have to be confident as well. Like you have to know for sure. You have to know for sure. And that comes from your self-knowledge and how you know, affirm yourself in that. Like confidence comes from knowing, like, oh, I know this for sure. So when you know, you know what your intentions are, it you're going to be unstoppable, because you know it for a fact, and you know what you're doing it for. So I really affirm and encourage anybody, whether you're a creative starting out or whether you want to start on anything, just know your intentions, be really clear on it, and know for yourself.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to open it up to Q&A with everybody.
Use.
Let me see. Okay. Okay. The spotlight has been canceled. So now, okay. If anyone has a question for Asia, feel free to type it in the chat box or use the reactions button to give a little thumbs up or wave. Let's see, did we have any questions in the chat already?
I must have said a lot then. I'm like, if There's no questions. I must have said it all.
Last call for questions. Ooh, we've got one from Natalie. She
Thanks,
also
Natalie.
has her IG handle if you guys want to go follow her. She's one of our leaders too. She's awesome. So, Asia, what artists, GR or not, are inspiring you the most right now?
What artists? That's a hard question, honestly, and I can't pinpoint just one. Actually, no, I can, and I will. So, and she's part of Element 7 too. Her name is Jasmine Bruce, and she's been working on a lot of the mural work. She works very closely with Hannah and Lions and Rabbits in their activations, and they're currently doing the Women's Way activations around downtowns where it's these large-scale murals, you know, different women, you know, in their stories. And just learning more about Jasmine, I didn't know Jasmine before, you know, Windows GR project and everything like that. But knowing her, seeing her art, and just knowing for sure that she's truly passionate. Woo! But knowing that she's truly passionate about what she does, and just seeing, you know, all the local artists, and I will honestly say her in addition to the local artists here, and it's so many to name, to count, like Kristen Zuller, she's another one. She's a Preston grad, but she's been in the city. She's an amazing illustrator. Windows GR honestly brought to light a lot of the artists who I either wasn't aware of or never seen their work up close. And I'm just so inspired by them, just because it's like, wow, you've been holding off, you know, like Grand Rapids is so talented. Like, we have such an amazing pool of creatives here, who are doing amazing work. So yeah.
Do you remember how many artists ended up participating in that?
I think we had about 150, but essentially we had a whole bunch of boards. So some artists, you know, did multiple placements, but I think overall we had about 150.
It was at least over 100 though.
Yeah. It's a lot. Like, I'm telling you, this project has really been a labor of love, because it's the first time we did anything like this, and a weekend project turned into a 2-month project. So yeah, it's a lot of people who were involved in, but created amazing artwork, and just seeing that all of that came from people here, it really truly inspired me and keeps me motivated that we have a lot of work to do, because we have so many people here who, you know, deserve more opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question from Joseph. He says, I'm also a self-taught designer. How do you overcome feelings of imposter syndrome when other designers around you have more polished portfolios and formal training? Yup.
You know, great question. Because yeah, it can get kind of real, you know, when you're self-taught, but you're being around people who, you know, I went to the Art Institute of, and, you know, pulling out all of their stuff, which is great too. And I honestly do think that self-taught designers, we should be teaching ourselves no matter what, and keep teaching, because you can reach plateaus, which can encourage imposter syndrome, because it's like, well, I don't know what else to do. So definitely keep teaching, keep learning, you know, keep up with the trends. But then again, and this is just me coming as a self-taught designer, self-taught designers have juice. Like, we have a different type of juice and a different type of sauce, you know, that some classically taught designers don't, just because self-taught designers are really passionate, because it's like, I'm gonna do this no matter what, you know. And like, just having that raw spirit, I think, can help you snap out of imposter syndrome, because it's like, yeah, you know, my art might not be it. And at the same time, art is objective, you know? So that's the hardest thing about being a creative, because it's like, one person might love it, one person might hate it. Like, who are you, you know, paying attention to in those times? But yeah, I think just to knock off imposter syndrome is keeping up your knowledge and your education about, you know, your craft and your skill, and just always knowing what you're doing it for. And it's like, man, like you'll just dust it off, because it's like, oh, I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm doing it for. So I feel imposter syndrome often, but I always be like, well, can't nobody do it like me though, you know? So I think once you just reminding yourself, like, yeah, they can do it, but they can't do it like me, you know, that'll just, you know, dust all those fears away.
May we all channel Asia's spirit of confidence.
I mean, but that's the truth. Like, you, especially if you're a creative, nobody can do it like you. Like, even if you were given the same project and the same, you know, nobody can do it like you. So you really have to root yourself in it and be like, nobody can execute my vision like me. Nobody else can do my art like myself. Nobody can do it like me. And root yourself in that.
I'm just going to replay this clip of this video of you saying that on the mornings I need it.
I mean, yeah, give me up, meme me up, put it on a t-shirt.
Oh, I love it. That was a great question, Joseph. Does anyone else have questions? I really want to try unmuting someone for a question too. So
right, let's test you guys.
Yeah, use that reaction button.
You can just ask me what my favorite color is if you just want to try.
That's great. We have time for like one more question.
Cool bean.
Okay, I'm looking back and forth. No more questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. All right, well, I want all of us to give Asia a huge round of applause. Feel free to unmute for that. Oh, wait, Noah, is that a question or are you just excited and clapping right now?
I'm just excited.
Yay!
Yay!
So thank you, Asia, so much. Everyone,
Yeah.
if you can, and you're still at your computer and not like sleeping or working.
Now all the
wait.
questions are rolling in.
We have a question. Okay, from Yolanda. Asia, what is next for you?
Yeah, great question. So actually we, Element 7, after Windows GR, and just the amount of outpouring and support that we, you know, were shown through it, we definitely are keeping going with it. We even formed our collective. Element 7 is our official name of the artist leads from, you know, the Grand Rapids Windows project. So we are planning a live stream, live paint experience August 28th, actually. So keep a lookout for that. We're getting the details in order, but it's going to take place at Rosa Parks Circle. We're going to select 15 of our most, you know, provocative artists from the Windows GR project, and we're going to have them paint. And it's going to be live streamed because, of course, we're keeping in mind all of what's going on, and even the changes in the group sizes and things like that. Something to keep in mind too. Like, our event experience, you know, scope is changing a lot, so we're having to adapt to that, but we're flowing with it. So we're just going to host a, you know, live streamed live paint experience, but it's going to be really rooted in the intention of the Grand Rapids community. We're going to be auctioning off those pieces and giving proceeds to different, you know, initiatives and causes around the city that speak to what we're painting about. And we'll have, you know, entertainment and DJs. Like, I'm a DJ, so of course I want to make sure that I, you know, throw that in wherever I can, because why not? So it's going to be great, and it's going to be something that we just wish to keep doing. So that's going to be August 28th, and we'll be releasing the information soon. But again, it'll be live streamed, so you don't have to be anywhere. You just have to have the link.
That's amazing. Cannot wait. Maybe we can share it out too when we get some more info. But Asia, thank you
sure.
so much for joining us this morning and for sharing your story. Now, everyone, unmute if you're actually at your computer and give her a warm congrats. Thank you
Thank you, guys.
so much.
Thank you. And I did, oh wait, I did want to mention too, but before we leave, because this does tie into the what's next for you. So I am a creative director, and I have started my own studio imprint called Free Alchemy. And it's just a studio that I want to collaborate with creatives here, you know, locally and beyond, with different creative projects and concepts and campaigns. That's really what my niche is just those special experiences and campaigns. So if you're, you know, open to collaborating, photographers, designers, illustrators, have really big ideas and really big dreams to do here, which I have already kind of started to do. We didn't mention this earlier, but Power to the People was a Juneteenth event that I had coordinated, which, you know, was creatively directed by me too. So just finding different opportunities to collaborate with designers and creatives here, I'm really looking forward to it. So feel free to reach out to me, and I will definitely keep you in mind to pull you into any projects, because that's really what this quarantine time has led to too. It's just collaborations, like what can we do together. So I'm ready to work with everybody, so please drop me a line if you're really ready to collaborate.
Absolutely. There's so many things that we can all do together. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Asia, for
Yeah,
offering that.
for sure.
Thank you to all of our sponsors that help us make this possible. And thank you guys for showing up. It was so good to see a couple of your faces and to know that we all got to share this time together. And we will see you next time. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you guys.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.